100 candles, 2 nights in theaters, and one of the most beloved entertainers of all time stepping into his second century. That is the moment Dick Van Dyke, 100th celebration, is built to catch on film, not as a farewell, but as a living, laughing testament. If you love stories where craft, luck, and stubborn joy collide, stay close, hit subscribe, and turn on your bell so you catch first-hand updates on this story and others, because this one has layers you'll probably want to revisit. The timing is almost mischievous, perfectly set for December 13th and 14th, 2025, when the documentary lands in select theaters to coincide with Van Dyke's real 100th birthday. A 2-day theatrical window can feel like a tease, but here it serves like a drumroll, a deliberately brief, shared celebration that asks you to sit among strangers and smile at the same memories, then walk out humming something you did not plan to hum. The release plan is no accident. It is the centennial as an event, not just a number on a cake. Fathom Events and the filmmakers framed it as a once-in-a-lifetime party at the movies, a national toast to a performer who made home feel a little lighter on weeknights and made movie palaces feel like playgrounds on weekends. What the film actually covers is breadth, and then more breadth. It moves across the map of Van Dyke's career, from the clockwork timing of The Dick Van Dyke Show, to the spoonful of wonder in Mary Poppins, to stage turns and later work you maybe forgot, or never knew to begin with. The structure is not a simple highlight reel, it is a guided walk through eras, media, and the weird, delightful connective tissue between them, how a pratfall in black and white informs a twirl on a Technicolor London street, how a line read opposite Mary Tyler Moore rhymes with a wink to Julie Andrews years later. The promise, as the director keeps hinting, is that you will see new angles on moments you thought you knew by heart, because the vantage point is different at the century mark. Behind the scenes, the project took time, a lot of it, and that time shows up on screen as perspective. Director Steve Bircher began rolling interviews nearly 3 decades ago, back when the original idea was to document the pioneers of early television. That seed changed shape as he kept collecting voices, memories, and the kind of off-camera asides that only emerge when a relationship has been tended patiently. The scope widened from a chapter in TV history to a full career retrospective, which, frankly, is the only way to treat an artist who zigzagged so gracefully across TV, film, and stage. I think this is one of those rare instances where slow journalism, if we can call it that, makes the story feel more honest. The roster of interviewees reaches into the pantheon. Some of the voices are now ghosts, but they speak with a freshness that underlines why the interviews were captured when they were. Carl Reiner, the architect and sparring partner who understood Van Dyke's gears better than anyone, appears, as does Mary Tyler Moore, who turned the ensemble into a dance and later became an icon in her own right. Hearing them today, posthumously, hits like finding a handwritten note inside a book you love, specific, funny, unexpectedly intimate. Their recollections do not just flatter the star, they decode him, showing how the work was built, where the risks were hidden, and why the easy charm was actually a precision instrument. Then there is the personal tone Van Dyke strikes himself, equal parts grateful and slightly incredulous. He keeps calling it luck, which sounds modest, maybe too modest, but also tracks with the public man we have watched for decades, playful about his own myth. Even in recent interviews and appearances, he shrugs at the number 100 with a twinkle, the way a veteran acrobat might glance down at the net and grin that the trick still feels risky. That voice of amused gratitude becomes the film's hum, reminding you that legacy is something you keep adding to if you stay curious enough and keep showing up. Place matters here, and the filmmakers lean into that by returning to Danville, Illinois, where the boy who would become Dick Van Dyke sat in the dark at the Fisher Theater and fell in love with moving pictures. The documentary uses Danville not as trivia, but as a compass. You see the old theater, the town's textures, and the way early fascinations, Laurel and hearty gags on a Saturday, turn into a lifelong appetite for kinetic, generous comedy. By looping back to Danville, the film adds warmth and context, connecting the applause of packed houses to the quiet awe of a kid on a balcony seat. The hometown is not a backdrop, it is a character, and December's premiere festivities there stitch the circle closed in a way that feels right. About those 2 nights in theaters, they function like a lens. Limiting the engagement to December 13th and 14th creates scarcity, but it also creates focus, the kind that makes entire families pick a time, book seats, and make an evening out of honoring someone who has, in tiny ways, already lived in their living room. If I'm honest, I like that choice. Nostalgia can sprawl, especially online, where tributes blur into playlists and algorithms. A concise theatrical window says, "Come sit together, remember together, and then carry it out into your week." It is ritual, not content. The newest promise tucked inside the film is novelty. Yes, there are classic clips, the ones your mind supplies before the montage even starts, but the filmmakers are also threading in never-before-heard stories and behind-the-scenes material, unearthed precisely because the production stretched across years and friendships. Long projects earn trust, and trust earns candor. That is how you get the aside that was never told on a panel, the rehearsal mishap that explains a later stroke of genius, the affectionate ribbing that reveals a work ethic under the grin. Viewers are not just asked to applaud, they are invited to learn. Bircher's original brief, to chronicle early television pioneers, still lingers in the film's bones, and I think that is valuable. You feel the lineage, the way studio floors full of cables and timing marks became laboratories for timing and physicality that would echo into films and stage numbers. By reframing the concept as a career-wide celebration, the documentary lets us watch technique evolve while personality remains steady, which might be the essence of a great entertainer, the same heartbeat expressed in new costumes, new cameras, new partners. It is a small miracle when history and biography cooperate like that. The presence of legends around the legend, whether through archival conversations or newer sit-downs, becomes its own chorus. When colleagues remember, they are also self-portraitists, describing what it felt like to keep up with a performer whose grace made difficulty look like a lark. That is where Carl Reiner's wit, Mary Tyler Moore's precision, and others' testimonies do more than validate or resume. They demonstrate an ecosystem of excellence that surrounded the show and the films. In a way, the film memorializes a community as much as a star, showing how collaborative joy travels. And because Van Dyke is, well, Van Dyke, the story keeps leaking into the present tense. In public, even very recently, he has joked about whether he will make it to 100, laughed at his own longevity, exercised with comic bravado, and accepted awards that quietly reframe what old can look like. The documentary arrives into that living context, less a capstone than a milestone, a chance to pause and let the long arc come into focus before the next cameo or unexpected performance pops up and makes you grin again. Legacy, in his case, refuses to sit still. If there is a single takeaway, it is that a century in entertainment is both rarer than we admit and more human than we think. The film seems intent on proving that durability is built from habits, partners, place, and a willingness to be silly with real craft. It argues gently that patience pays off, both for a director who kept gathering stories for decades and for a performer who kept showing up for audiences across formats and generations. It argues that going home can be part of telling the truth, and that new stories can still surface about a man we feel we already know. Mostly, it argues that joy, done seriously, travels well. So yes, mark December 13th and 14th if this kind of communal nostalgia speaks to you. And if you want more of these deep dives, more stories where the past and present shake hands, make sure you're subscribed and your bell is on, because there is something quietly profound about a centennial party that looks forward as much as it looks back. In the end, maybe that is the trick Dick Van Dyke taught us without saying it out loud. Keep dancing, then rest, then dance again, and let the camera and the crowd find you right where you are.